So good morning, everybody. It's always an honor to be here, especially Sunday mornings at 12 o'clock. So being here, and I always question myself why I'm getting invited here, because normally I'm the guy in the Wellingtons. I'm not in this super sophisticated world in which you are working, all this kind of nice internet applications and software guys. We are digging the grounds. We are building the infrastructure. We are the ones building the towers for the mobile connectivity. We make this world possible. Without us, everything is going to be dark. So therefore, I should not distract too much, of my time of being defocused from digging. But, have somebody of you been at the CES conference in Las Vegas recently? And have you seen this event for hours? It was in the main hall. It was totally dark. There was nothing working at all. There was no light, nothing. The only thing what was working were the mobile phones, and what you see here, the lights on these mobile phones, these are from the cameras, from the mobile devices, from the smartphones. The rest was not working. And this shows us how vulnerable our world is going to be in this digital world. If the energy is not working, the power supply is not working anymore, guys, this is going to be difficult. Now, why I'm telling you the story, if you are listening to Europe, if you're looking to our political situation, everything seems to fall apart. We have a distraction of countries. We have a renationalization. We get killed by the Chinese. We get killed by the Americans. Guys, why are we sitting here? Enjoy the last day of Europe. Then just, sitting here and, eating your depression. I can tell you, if I even listen to a lot of politicians, I'm tired of their ways of observations. Listen carefully to them. They are world champions in observation. They describe, have you ever seen WeChat? Have you seen Tencent arising? Do you see the platforms Alibaba? Do you see what's happening on the Google modes? You have to do something. They are world champions in observation, but they are not world champions in solutions. And what we need is not observations. What we need are answers, tangible answers for the challenges which we are facing in our industry here in Europe. And to give you some tangible numbers. In 2006, the European telco industry, and I'm always talking about telco industry, not about the digital world. The telco industry had 56 billion of value add. Now, this was at that time 39% of the world GDP or the world value add created by telecommunication services. 39%. 10 years later, the same added value of European telco industries is at 11%. At the same time, where we have halved our value add in the European telco industry, the US has almost doubled, 89% the value add of telecommunication services. And guess who has more investments to carry? The Americans or the European telcos industries? Everybody is complaining about not having fiber to the home everywhere. Everybody is complaining about, let's say, some loopholes in the networks of the mobile industries. But nobody is questioning, why is this industry not able to close all these gaps? What is the reason for it? Now, some of it is that we are trying to regulate everything in our world. But I do not want to go there. The only thing is what we need is a bigger optimism on that we are not talking about complaining, but just one doing. Coming back to the Wellingtons. And where in the Wellingtons? To give you an example, and I don't want to make advertising for Deutsche Telekom, in 2017, Deutsche Telekom has invested 12 billion. 21% of our revenues has been invested into infrastructure, of which were 8 billion euros only invested into Europe, 5 of that in Germany alone, on an annual basis. And this is excluding the very expensive spectrum which we are seeing going forward. I believe, guys, if we do it right, we're going to see a renaissance of the telco industry, a renaissance of the telecommunication operator, if we are doing the things right. And it always starts with the right investments and the brave decisions of entrepreneurs in their respective companies. Now, I was asked what I do believe in 10 years from now, what's going to happen, and how the world was looking. And I do that very quickly because, I'm not carrying oils to Athens or preaching to the converted. You know it already. It is going to be first AR and VR, is going to be upgrade our reality. And we're going to witness it everywhere. I'm just coming from the football stadium of Bayern Munich, where a big hackathon is taking place, how we could bring the football content into the living rooms that people could participate in live content in a much better way. AR and VR is coming big time. It's becoming reality, whether we like it or not. AI is everywhere. If you want to build an infrastructure of today, artificial intelligence is already a main driver. Without our cooperation with Google and Facebook, we would not know much about how good our network is. We only know our measures, but we do not see the measurements of our competition. And now we know a lot of how we could dynamically drive the network. Autonomous vehicles will change the mobility. You just heard about the session before. Man and machine are deeply connected. Quantum computing is reality. And blockchain is creating an internet of trust. A great opportunity to evolve this economy with blockchain. So, if you haven't been involved into blockchain yet, please go about that. But it's not just Bitcoin, not the Ethereum of this one. Blockchain is really a great opportunity of taking out the man in the middle, to speak it simple, and make our society much more productive as it is already today. Now, what does that mean for the telecommunication industry, which is sitting in the center of it, which is sitting in the middle of it, which is connecting all the applications in this world? What are the requirements for our industry that you are enabled for all these future applications and capabilities? And in the past, and I'm just referring to the mobile connectivity, we had 1G. You remember the 1G phones? No, you don't, because you weren't born. It was, a disaster, big device which was eating up all the space in the trunk. 2G was already, bringing connectivity, speech, and, to the society in a better way. 3G was the access of data. 4G was data and speed. And 5G is just another improvement of what? Speed and coverage? Now 5G is just, making us a little bit better on what we have already today? No, guys. 5G is a revolution. It's creating huge optionalities, new optionalities for business purposes. And I just, put a few of them on the right side. Connecting devices in the logistic value chain all over the globe, enabled by 5G services. A new reliability of guaranteed quality parameters in the network for health services and connected vehicles, another application. Flexibility of different, ideas about low narrowband IoT to very high, very low latencies applications is going to be possible in a kind of dynamic infrastructure. Billions of devices getting connected. Today, worldwide, we have something around 19 billion devices connected. We know that in the next 3 to 4 years, we are more than triple the amount of devices, sensors, and actors being connected in our network. Low energy consumption, very important, because a lot of the sensors and actors will not have constantly access to power supply. So how could you deploy devices without having a long, sustaining access to energy? So you need batteries with long-lasting lifetime. Low data volumes and high data volumes. If I'm talking about a parking lot being connected, I need very, very low energy consumption because this sensor will not have access to the energy grid. It doesn't need a low latency infrastructure because it's very rarely communicating, maybe with a latency of 30 seconds. And at the same time, this device is not eating up a lot of data consumption. The opposite is the case for the connected cars, which are coming with very low latencies and which are coming with huge data volumes in our network. Coverage, convergence, densification, provisioning of the networks, just other features, how to make this ecosystem possible. If everything what you're thinking about is getting connected in this network, this is going to be the biggest chaos in the world. How do you want to price it? What is the billing capability? How is the authentication of this going? How is that working? And this is what we are trying to solve. This is exactly what telecommunication in the future is about. Looking forward, I want to give you an overview about the 5G infrastructure. What 5G stands about. 3 dimensions are relevant to remind. The first one is latency. If you use the Vodafone network, you know, it has something like 60 milliseconds today. If you need the Deutsche Telekom network, it has 20 to 40 milliseconds here in this room already today. So this is okayish. But if it comes to autonomous driving, it is totally underperforming. If a car is driving with 100 kilometers per second, and you want to use our infrastructure of today to give an information from one car into the other car, and to give a command, in this network, you will have up to 13 meters before the information is going into the cloud, coming back over the cloud into the infrastructure. In 13 meters around the corner, a lot of things can happen. This is definitely not the assisted driving which we are looking at. So what you need in an autonomous care network is a latency of a network which is below 10 milliseconds. The problem with 10 milliseconds is the light speed is simply too slow. Connecting the car with the mobile side, connecting the mobile side with the network with the clouds with the different application, and the same way going back. Even if you only have fiber infrastructure in between, the light speed is not fast enough. It's unsolvable with the existing infrastructure. So therefore, we have to bring the clouds into the mobile sites, to the respective infrastructures. That means we have to entirely rebuild the mobile sites as they are constructed today. In 15 to 150 kilometers around mobile sites, we are building clouds who are already anticipating, you are coming, this information is required, so please buffer it in this cloud already, that the way between the different cars, the vehicles, is being shortened. This service, friends, is not needed for a parking lot. And it's not needed that your emails are getting transferred in 3 or 5 milliseconds. I just say that because there might be some fundamentalists in the room and say, net neutrality, friends, net neutrality. The fastest service has to be available for everybody. It would be totally nonsense if we would transfer emails or transfer SMS in 3 milliseconds. We are tailoring this service specific for industrial needs. The second component of our infrastructure is going to be compute power. Compute power is very, very important because all the data which is transferring about the network is exploding. So the compute power is in the network, we call that the edge network, and the compute power in the infrastructure has to accelerate as well. And the last thing is bandwidth. You know, we are a radio station for the ones who are not knowing what we are doing. And then as a radio station, we are broadcasting. And what do you need for broadcasting? We need spectrum. And this spectrum, what we need, is transferring. The more spectrum we have, the more data volume we can transfer at the same time. So it's from incremental need that we get as much spectrum as possible as an industry. And this is now another to-do for politicians because they're sitting on the spectrum and they're the ones deciding about where to transfer and who is getting it. These are the dimensions of the infrastructure. On top of that, guys, and I go now in every single tile of this slide and will describe it to you, on top of that, this world is not only carrying a network, it has even to make it easy for users to use the different services in this new infrastructure. There might be big companies who are running their own clouds, who are able to administrate, authenticate, bill, and steer the network with different service classes in a very secure manner, and they do that all on their own. They are managing all the components. These companies might arise. And that might be even the big software companies of the world who are managing the so-called SDNs, the software-defined networks. But for the mass market, for the startups, for the software company, it's very important that they do not have to bother about this complexity. So that you have an easy API, an easy access to this complexity, which is managing the device, which is managing the connectivity, which is managing the IoT platforms, which is managing the security around this different connectivity applications. And this is the second piece of what we are building. The 5G infrastructure is coming soon, and the second one is the service layer, which we put on top of that. We are not the ones delivering the vertical service solution. That's your business. But we have to make it easy that you get every kind of service quality, service which you requires to enable the Internet of Things in our world. And I can tell you, we do not need the Chinese, we do not need the Americans for that one. We can just do it. And we do this. Deutsche Telekom will invest more than 10 billion on an annual basis, 5 billion in Germany alone to make this happen. And interesting-wise, just the last comment on that one, most of the engineers and technicians from the world, they like to come to Europe. I was fascinating getting even better engineers from all over the world. Not by saying Deutsche Telekom is so super sexy, but saying you have a job in Germany, which is a safe place, without pollution. It's a nice place and a safe place for growing up your kids. It's interesting how many engineers, how many leading guys we are getting in Deutsche Telekom in Bonn who are running the show. Just to give you one example, South Korea is leading 5G. They do the Olympics with 5G applications already. The head of SK Telekom, the CTIO of this company, is now the CTO of Deutsche Telekom. So we can do something. We even get the top guys into the European landscape if we are just caring about that one. Coming to the end. Not complaining, not observing anymore, guys. It's time to do our own thing. I'm tired about always observation the world. Yes, the Americans are doing a great stuff on IT. Yes, the Chinese with Tencent and Alibaba are doing unbelievable platforms. And yes, we have lost this B2C platform forever. That's my belief. But in the IoT space, in the B2B space, here is the strength of Europe, and here we have something to win. And we have a joint responsibility to do something about that. So what can we do about that one? The first thing, what can politicians do to do this? Very easy. Give us spectrum. We need spectrum. We are discussing 3.4 gigahertz spectrum. Honestly speaking, nice. But if you want to listen, we need everything beyond 6 gigahertz. For small networks, for small density of the infrastructure, we need 6 gigahertz and plus. In the US, 26 gigahertz is already sold. So the big companies are working already, deploying this huge spectrum availability. So we have to force everybody in the political landscape of Europe that we get spectrum beyond 6 gigahertz immediately to deploy all the use cases which we are thinking about. Deregulation. Guys, forget it. Deutsche Telekom has been regulated for the last 20 years. And now people are complaining that we are not investing enough into the infrastructure. I say, okay, the idea of regulating us was that others are investing. But the others are not investing. As long as they have always the optionality to use my infrastructure for lower money than investing it on their own, why should they invest in their own infrastructure? They will never do this. So we have to go in deregulation, guys. The infrastructure, the homo ludens, the playful trial of infrastructure is what makes the US so strong. And we should adapt that deregulation on infrastructure competition. Lighthouses for e-government. What we need is that the political environment is not complaining about the industry that we have loopholes in our network in the Thüringer Wald. They should make now showcases that they show we are serious about e-government. We show our society how important it is that all the cases where we have a contact with the government are based on e-services. This will trigger change in the behavior and the thinking of the industry immediately. And what we have to do, exemplify security standards. I think the GDPR, and I do not want to be too negative on that one, is already a big change, a big way forward. Telekom, very simple. We are brave. And by the way, investors are always very concerned if we are brave in this environment. Think about this, investing into an infrastructure which is paying off in 20 years. You need 5 governments not regulating this infrastructure. If one government decides, okay, we make it cheaper for everybody, the entire amortization is gone. So therefore, you have to be brave. And we are brave with the 12 billion which we have invested. We have significantly increased even our indebtedness to just build this infrastructure for our society. And I can tell you, we will be first on 5G in Germany. Authentication, simplification, all of this has been described. It's not that we are leaving you alone with one network. You will even be able to use the different service parameters in the infrastructure. And last but not least, it's you. It's the industry. Sometimes I'm sitting with leaders of big companies and they are asking me, what should I do to enable Internet of Things in my industry? I have no clue. This is something where the companies have to identify optionalities. They have to try things. They have to work with smaller companies. They have to do hackathons to find out which kind of ideas they might use for their Internet of Things, for the connectivity, for the next generation. But they have to start. And then they have to come back to us and say, in the infrastructure, in these different software layers, we need certain requirements, software requirements. This is exactly what we are looking for the interaction, that people are coming to us and saying, we need in your infrastructure this kind of parameters. Secondly, IoT. IoT doesn't mean island of things. Sometimes I'm coming to German companies and they are used to close the entire ecosystem. It's their USP, their differentiator to say, I have everything under control. Germans like to have things under control. What they don't like is to open up and share their value chain with partners. In this IoT world, the value chain is getting for the first time connected. And therefore, the companies have to open for partnerships. They have to share their data with others, and we have to make the legal requirements possible that this is possible. And the last thing is, they have to deliver on open standards. If you talk to embedded service companies, if you talk to a lot of machine producers in Germany, they like to have a very closed ecosystem in a very specific niche. In the connected world of a machine park, of a production, of a logistic chain, this is not going to work. They have to accept that there have to be open standards for the different industry chains. So my pitch of today, guys, is the following. The first is stop observation. It's nice to make pictures on vacation, but it's not the purpose of business. We have to find solutions, and we have to brave, even if the environment of Europe is difficult. And this is true not only for the politicians. It's easy for us always to complain about them, that they are not giving the right rules. It's about us. It's about the IoT industry and the value chain to try and error around what is possible. And it's about the telco industry enabling the society with the latest technology. And 5G for us is not only a threat of big investments, it's the biggest opportunity of earning a lot of money. Thank you very much.